All right, this is the panel off of that 65 Super Reverb, and it's got a couple little indentations here and there. It's got a pretty good divot here, and it's bent up at the corner here. We're going to fix all that before we put it back in place. First, I've got a damp washcloth, just some water. I'm going to take the worst of the dust off, like this. No pressure. I don't want any abrasion. Just kind of really loose. Knock off the biggest bits of dust. This won't get it clean. This will just get a lot of the big stuff out of the way, so the solvents we use to get it really clean would be more effective. And I'm going to get it clean before I worry about the dents and stuff. But so, and the rear of this has got some smudge on it too. Yeah, boy, that's bright. Hope it comes across on the camera. We'll get there. Using a little bit more pressure right here where there's a whole bunch of smudging on the where the jacks were, and will be again. All right. Now, what I have found works really well for cleaning this is Naptha first, then some WD-40. Naptha will get a lot of the stuff that the water itself doesn't get off. And the other side of that cloth that I did not get water on, I left half of it dry so I could put Naptha on it. Just let it rest on there for a while. It doesn't take a lot. And whenever you use Naptha, which is lighter fluid, and it doesn't matter if it's with paper towels or rags like this, you want to let them evaporate all the way when you're done, because if you leave them piled up, like if you're to toss this in your laundry room in a pile, it could actually spontaneously combust, which is probably not anyone's idea of a fun day. So when I'm done with this Naptha soaked cloth, I actually lay it out in the sun on the driveway for an hour or two, and then I wash it off in the sink with cold water. And then after that, it can go in the washing machine and it can be used again. Naptha takes a while to evaporate, but evaporates fully. All right, so that's an awful lot of the yuck off. There's a couple little spots here that I'm going to let the WD-40 do its big work on. And WD-40 is a wonderful thing, and it also promotes a little bit of laziness. So I'm just putting some on here. That's why I have this paper towel down on the bench. And then I'll just move it all around the panel with my finger. Got everything nicely coated. And I'll do the back as well, which will get up just little bits of dirt and stuff over the decades. Hopefully that won't blow out fully on the camera. It's a tricky thing filming reflective stuff. The camera does not see as our eyes do. All right, now I'm gonna let this sit for about 15 minutes before I wipe it off the excess, and that'll give it time to actually do some work. That's what I meant by it rewards laziness. All right, I cleaned all that up, and this thing is immensely cleaner. It's not perfect. You can still see where there's smudges that have been kind of baked in over the years, but this thing's got a coating on it. If I don't want to work too hard. If I focus on it too much, it might start to peel up like a plasticky layer. We don't want that. So let's just get these bends out of the way. I might come back with a Q-tip and do a little bit more cleanup in this area before I put the hardware back, but this is enough to show. So we're going to start with this point right here. So what I'm going to do is I'll take the stainless steel ruler and put this on top of it like that. Then put some paper towel down so that what I do next doesn't affect the surface here. I'm going to take this bar of steel, which is milled pretty much perfect on every surface. And I'm going to clamp that together using a C-clamp on my desk. The underside of my wooden bench is a bit chewed up from C-clamps already. I only had this bench about a year. But, you know, it's why the bench exists. To do things like this. Get it pretty much as tight as I can. And let's let off the pressure and see what changes that has made. I may need to move the center of the downward angle a bit. That did really well. We need a little bit more over right here. Notice that I have this in this, firmly on top of the ruler, not hanging over, because that could put a really big crimp into things. So we're going to aim for right here. So I'm putting the center of that block right here. Let the pressure off. That's a hell of a lot better. Almost indistinguishable. I can still feel it a little bit right in here. So I want to repeat that with the center about right here. I have some larger pieces of steel that I'll use for larger things in terms of more surface area, but for these little spots, the ruler and the steel block should do just fine. That's a lot better. There's a little bit of a curve right here. Right between the N and the D where it says Fender. If I had a machine shop, there'd be big presses that could do large areas at a time. I don't, but I've got patience and elbow grease, and it doesn't take long. All right, so now here, I can see that the bend kind of follows a line like this. So first I'm just kind of do it a little bit with my fingers. I'll be doing this one in stages as well, because it's a little bit of a complex plane. Another fascinating video, though this one won't be an hour long. One guy commented that he liked the hour-long videos so much that he found the shorter videos practically useless, which makes me feel terrible, because I have not ever intended to put out a useless video. I don't think that the shorter videos are useless in the slightest. Sometimes it's nice to have just, hey, this is what we're talking about today. Just this one simple but useful thing to know. And I hope that today's video is such a video. I don't know how many pounds per square inch I'm exerting on this, but it's got to be an awful lot. And it's more than sufficient to bend this panel back to being flush. Eyeballing it. Almost there. Almost there. Just need to do a few more. It's a little bit higher at this corner. So I think I'm going to, if the bench will allow, I'm going to do it like this, and then put the block like this. Let's see what that bought us. I may need to repeat the process moving down towards the pilot light hole a bit. Just a little bit right in here. There's a little bit of a curve in this area. Get that out the same way. There are some really thin spots on this paper, so I've been moving it around a bit to hit fresh areas when possible. And right here, I don't want to put any pressure where the ruler stops. I want to make sure that I know where that transition is, so I'm not putting a new crimp into it. If I were just doing this to my cutting mat rather than doing it to that steel ruler beneath, it wouldn't do much good. The mat would just compress, and even the wood of the tabletop would just compress. I'm sure I've got nice little round indentations on the bottom from using the C-clamp like this, but like I said, workbenches are for working. All right, that's looking really good. It still has a slight angle up. It's a bit tricky. Let me kind of nudge it with my fingers a bit and then square it out this way. Those are some big broad adjustments now that I've gotten the little indentations out. Now I'll even out what I just did. It would be nice to have a great big press like in a machine shop for stuff like this. So if you need to do this work and you've got a friend who has a machine shop, once you explain that you don't want the thing to have the surface area damaged, you know, just put a plastic film down or paper like this to protect the paint. This be one stop, you know, just once and be all flat again. All right, that's very good. I feel very good about that. That's going to look good. It's going to sit up against the chassis well. So let me put these C-clamps up and get the chassis out, and we'll go forward. All right, you can see I've got all the pots and jacks and stuff out, and that there's stuff here. Oh, missed those two jacks. And I'm taking these tooth washers out as I go and putting them in an isopropyl bath. I'm going to clean the front of this panel, the front of the chassis, with some iso. Give everything a nice clean start. If there's any corrosion or rust, I take care of that, but everything looks really good. Just dirt. And let me take a look at the back of the brass panel inside. Yeah, I've shown this in a lot of videos, so I'm not going to move the camera right now, but we're going to give that a clean as well. Again, just some isopropyl. so that when I put everything back together and all the grounds are made from the pots and the lock nuts to the brass, we won't have all that stuff in the way of our grounds. Now, there are amps that I've done that I've had on the channel where the brass strip is corroded and really, really filthy. And with those cases, I will take them out and do a deep cleaning, usually involving Brasso. But in this case, there's a little snippet of wire I need to get out, probably floating around since 1965. But in this case, it just needs to be cleaned. If I can get that piece of wire. I know you're not seeing anything really fascinating right now, but it's nothing I haven't shown before, and it's just, as I've mentioned, a lot of this work is janitorial in nature, getting dirt out where it does not need to be. All right, that's a much better place to be. Now, I'm not going to clean all of these right now. I'll do some of this after I stop filming this, but I'm going to clean these jacks down here on the end, and I've already cleaned the lamp hardware. So let me just clean these two jacks, because those will locate the panel at left and right. I want to make sure there's no corrosion or dirt. These look really good. Just get any dirt off. A little bit came off. I'll do these jacks too, just for completion's sake. All right, and like I mentioned, I have all the tooth washers in an isopropyl bath. There's an easy way to clean them all at once. So I'm going to drop one on the floor. Isopropyl is great. Lets you know if you have any paper cuts that you were unaware of. I'm surprisingly paper cut and hangnail free at the moment, which is not something I can usually say. All right, a little bit of smudge here. More of a haze than a smudge at this point, but that's better. All right, so I want to loosely put this in place and put at least one jack on each one, on each of each pair through. And I'll talk about the nuts more in a moment. I just dropped another one. Great. It may surprise you to learn that not all amps have the exact same diameter holes in the panel as they do in the chassis, nor do they always match each other very well. In general, this era of Fender does a pretty good job of that. A lot of previous Fenders, a lot of Fender's more recent stuff, it doesn't line up that well. Marshall has been terrible about that over the years. I need to rotate this to get this started with its mounting hardware. It's a bit tricky. I'll turn this back in just a moment. I'm just going to get it started. This is not going to be the complete install here. A trick, though, is you can put the jewel on here and turn it all at once. Gives you something to grab onto. And this nut is always hard to get started, but that's all I need to do is get it started pretty much. There it goes. just getting it finger tight. And to do that, the easiest way at this point, I just hold the nut with my thumb and then turn the front panel jewel, which turns the entire assembly. All right. Later, I will tighten that up properly. And I have a specialized wrench made just for that purpose. This is something that Mission Amps used to sell. I suppose someone's probably making something like it these days, but I don't know who. But it's a godsend for this kind of thing. So I'm looking at this and I see that some of the brass is visible here. This panel is too low overall, so I can raise it up as I go. And that's one of the reasons I didn't get this more than finger tight. I can adjust and move everything around so that nothing is binding and all the jacks are centered and the nuts are centered. On the subject of the nuts and such, I took all the hardware like this off the front panel and gave it about 3 rounds in a ultrasonic cleaner to get it nice and clean. And I gave all the pots 1 round in an ultrasonic cleaner, which got the dirt out from in here in the knurlings and removed a lot of the dirt, but did not affect the paint. And that's something you have to do on a case-by-case basis. It depends on the year. The white ink on a 50s Fender knob will come off with that treatment. Starting in late 67, the non-snowman stuff fades to a pale blue-gray real fast. So on those, I rarely will fully clean them. I'll just brush them with a soft bristle dry toothbrush. Well, that looks good. And I'll go through here and clean all the shafts and bushings of the pots and put everything back properly. And you'll see that in the next video. And I'll tighten this up and give it make sure the bulb's really bright. There are bulbs that fit in there. They're all number 47s, some of which are really yellow, some of which are white. The white ones are more vibrant once they're going through the colored glass or plastic than the yellow ones. And sometimes the old red and blue jewels get kind of cloudy and don't let a lot of light through. So sometimes it's nice to freshen those up as long as you have the original on hand. And I'm just talking to fill space, so I guess we'll stop here for this video. Hope this was of interest. Hope this was of use. But it's very nice when all that stuff lays flat again, don't you think? Thanks for watching.